In this week's show, we've got six brand new Sega Dreamcast games to take you through. We've also got a code for 10% off of all these games provided to us by Pixelheart. My name's Mike, and this is the Retro Gamer Boy Show. Hey, welcome back. We've got 6 games to take a look at, and because we've got 6, we're not going to go as in-depth as we normally do into these games. So we'll give you a high-level overview of each one of the games, show you some gameplay, run some audio, so you can see what these games are like. Now, these games come from Pixelheart, and they've got special edition versions of these games available for us to buy, and I've got a 10% code for you to use. If you go to their store and type in RGB10, you'll get 10% off of your purchase. Now, this is only available to February the 28th, 2022. So if you want them, you better jump in there quickly. Now, if you're new to the channel, we cover a ton of retro gaming subjects, and we look at brand new games that are created for old consoles. And if you'd like to support the channel, there's a ton of YouTube buttons that you can press around the screen. Right, before we jump into these 6 games, I need to give you guys a little perspective. Now, in the last Dreamcast video that we put out, a lot of you mentioned in the comments that you felt the game looked more like a Mega Drive game or even a Saturn game. And you're not wrong. The games that we're seeing ported to the Dreamcast are more kind of indie titles based on 2D engines. And that's because making games for the Dreamcast were very expensive and very hard. If we look back at the 16-bit era, it would take 1 to 5 people to make a Mega Drive game. You know, if you wanted a AAA game, you might get to 10, maybe 15 people working on a big AAA game for the Sega Mega Drive. Then, as we moved on to the Sega Saturn and onto the PlayStation 1, the teams grew. It took about 20 people, and you'd get up to teams of 100 people making games like Final Fantasy VII. Games started to easily break into the millions of dollars. And so we saw a huge jump in the amount of money and people needed to create these games. When we got to PS2 and Dreamcast, the average team size making a medium-sized game was about 70 people. And on the big AAA titles, up to 700 people would be making these games. And they would cost tens of millions of dollars. Now, the people that are making games for these old consoles nowadays are usually about 3, 4, 5 people. They don't have millions of dollars, they do this in their spare time. And so the experiences we're going to get are akin to something like you'd find on a 16-bit console. That doesn't mean that we won't get some breakaway smash hit Dreamcast title in the future, it's just a little unlikely. So set your expectations. Just because a game doesn't use all of the processing power or GPU of a console doesn't mean it's terrible, it just means it's a different style of game. The gameplay is what counts, and that's what we're going to be checking out today. Now, all the games that we're going to be checking out today come from Pixelheart, and they are special collector edition versions of the game. You can pick them mostly up from other places, and they're available on PC, and some are even available on the Nintendo Switch. But if you are a Dreamcast collector and you want to get it on Sega's awesome 32-bit console, then you need to grab yourself one of these. Now, the first game we're going to be looking at is Wolflame, and we will be doing an unboxing of all of these games at the end of the video. Wolflame is developed by Attribution and is a stunning vertical shooter. This is a port to the Dreamcast, and from what I can tell from my short time with the game, is pretty similar to the 2016 PC version. The game is a 2D vertical scroller shoot 'em up with power-ups to collect huge specials and satellites that give your craft a triple threat attack. There are 10 levels, 4 levels of difficulty, and some huge enemies. The game is throwing around some seriously big sprites with real bullet hell levels of intensity in the game and no slowdown at all from what I can see. The game has an intense soundtrack with some awesome explosion sound effects. I really enjoy playing this game. It's so intense, reminds me of some of the classic vertical shooters we got at the beginning of the 2000s. Now, this game has 1,043 copies left of it on Pixelheart. Remember, you can get 10% off if you go over there and use the RGB10 code that is in the description below. Next up, we got Satazius Next, I think that's how we pronounce it, and this is also developed by Attribution. It came out on the Nintendo Switch in 2022, and now makes its way to the Dreamcast. This is a very different shoot 'em up from Wolflame. Firstly, it's a side-scrolling shmup and uses environmental level design to introduce an extra layer of difficulty. There are 4 levels of difficulty, but to be honest, this won't count for much until you've learnt the levels. There's a ton of customization and weapon unlocks. You start by choosing your main weapon, your primary sub-weapon, your secondary sub-weapon, and then finally your charge weapon. There are multiple options for each one of these, and there's a number of unlocks for each and every one of them. Visually, the game is not the best looking horizontal shooter, but it does have its moments. There's a relatively chilled soundtrack to the game, and the sound effects are pretty decent. Again, really enjoyed this game, but the environmental hazards made this game a little harder. You really have to get some environmental awareness, you have to understand how the levels are built to get the most out of this game. Supercharged Robot Vulkaiser is another game from Astroport, yet another one from these guys, and again, it's a horizontal shooter. Uniquely though, this game is inspired by 70s Japanese anime. It's been out on the PC for a while and has just got its port to the Sega Dreamcast. This too is a side-scrolling shmup, although more traditionally with just waves of enemies to dispatch. There's this nice feature where you can choose your robot's attachments, which introduces a new enemy pilot to your ship on screen, which is a really nice visual touch. The enemy projectiles have some really interesting design to them and often display dynamic dispersal patterns. Visually, the game hits its 70s theme, and this may put some people off. Enemy ships are more like huge cartoon characters, with bosses looking like something you would find in Cuphead. The sound's okay, and there's some decent cutscenes where you'll see our heroes and a nice 70s-esque TV program intro. It almost makes me think that this was a real cartoon. Overall, I found the pace of the game slow and a little lackluster, but it may be perfect for fans of 70s Japanese anime who want a less challenging shmup for their money. Rocketron is our last game from the developer Astroport, and it's a Metroidvania style game. The game was originally released on PC in 2020, and it's now been ported over to the Sega Dreamcast. I have to say that when I first started playing this game, I was not overwhelmed by it. The shooting mechanics in it were pretty substandard, it felt slow, and the visuals were okay. However, as I played further into the game, I really started to appreciate some of the mechanics of the game. The boost to jump was the first thing I began to appreciate. Quickly mastering this allowed me to dispatch enemies in some very cool ways. Then, as the Metroidvania mechanics started to kick in, I really began to enjoy the game. Upgrading your run speed, boosts and weapons made a big difference to gameplay. The pace of the game really came into its own as I started to enjoy exploring the levels and solving their puzzles. Visually, the game will not be for everyone, especially those looking for something that pushes the Dreamcast to its limits. The soundtrack though reminded me of something you'd find in Mega Turrican, and there's some decent sound effect design throughout the game. If you're all about the gameplay, then this may just be for you. But it does have a slow start, and the shooting mechanics are a little less refined when compared to something like Metroidvania Dread. If you're looking for that next big Dreamcast game, then this game is not for you. Now, the last game we're going to be taking a look at is Alice Sisters. Now, this game came out in 2020 and was on the PC, and it's only just been ported to the Dreamcast. Now, we're not going to go into too much depth of this game because it is relatively simple. In fact, I could quite easily see this game being ported to the Sega Mega Drive and even being a decent game for the Sega Master System. Visually, it does nothing to push the console, and the mechanics are super simple. You have two sisters that you play, which you can switch between, and they have different power-ups. The larger sister allows you to shoot things, switching to the smaller sister allows you to jump on mushrooms that shrinks you to get you to different places on the map. You collect keys to unlock progress through the map, and that's pretty much it. It's solid, it's nothing that's going to blow you away. The visuals are pretty standard, and as I said, I think this is a game that would do much better on the Sega Master System. In fact, if they ported it over to the Master System, they'd probably have a lot more success. But this doesn't mean that this game doesn't have an audience on Dreamcast. If you like those classic 8-bit consoles, but you don't want to have the faff of going and setting up one or purchasing one, then maybe Alice Sisters is the game for you. Now, when you buy anything from Pixelheart, you get one of these little pin badges here and a tick chart here to track your progress. Quite cool. They've done the kind of video gaming thing here where you've got 10 common, 6 uncommon, 4 rare, a secret one. And I'm not sure too many people are kind of into their collecting pin badges, but I thought it was a really nice little touch. So we'll try to get through these games relatively quickly. Wolflame here, nice boxing. I love the PAL boxing. Now, if you buy a NTSC version of this, a North American version, you get the North American box for it. But they do it in PAL, which is a little rare to see. Here is the 3D holographic sticker on the back. Each one of them is numbered, so mine is 2097 of 3000, and it's got the logo from the game on the top there. So really, really nice touch. If you've seen any of the earlier videos, you'll know that the quality of these prints are fantastic. The games, the discs themselves look like genuinely printed discs, and they are genuinely printed discs here. They're not labels. And then, of course, in the back we've got our certificate of authentication. We've got a manual here. Take the manual out, and these are generally full color manuals. Well, saying that, it's all black and white, but at least the inlay here is in color, and you can see other games that they're selling there for the Dreamcast. And this little thing here, this is a sticker that goes on the plastic seal. I don't have sealed games. I like to play them, so I just cut this out and stick it inside the box as well. Satazius Next, I think that's how you pronounce it. Again, really, really nice. I love the box art. I really love the box art for some of these games. Really vibrant. Again, there is our 3D holographic sticker for it, and this is 2078 of 3000. Nice looking disc there with the ship on the front. And then we've got our certificate of authenticity, and if I can get to it, we have the color manual as well. Supercharged Robot Vulkaiser. You have to let me know if I'm pronouncing that correct. Again, it just looks like something you'd find in the 70s, right? A proper 70s cartoon. So, I mean, I tried to look to see if this is an actual cartoon. Everywhere it says that it's not, it's made up. If it's made up, they've got the styling 100% perfect. Lovely box art. Love the fact that they've got all a bit of this anime on here, and then show you the screenshot of the back. Again, really, really nice 3D sticker. This is 1,399 of 3,000 copies. There is our disc, really nice printed disc there. And then we have our certificate. We have our certificate of authentication there. And there is our awesome looking manual. I actually quite like the 70s look, but you can see here some of the spaceships. Again, they're all character based enemies rather than what you get now, which is just mecha based enemies. But very nice, very cool box to have in the collection. Rocketron, again, really nice artwork on the front cover. This is number 124 of 3000, got a little bit lower here. Something I should mention about all these games, they are VGA compatible and they are VMU compatible as well, so it saves all of your data onto your VMU if you've got one. All the games are region free, you can see it on the bottom there, also says it on the back of the artwork. There is our certificate of authentication there, and there's our manual. Something I like about the previous game actually is that the manual art and the cover art were different. This one here, the manual art and the cover art are the same. And our final game, Alice Sisters. I kind of wish actually the game looked like this. You know, I know I go on about gameplay and visuals, but I just felt that this game really would have done really well on the Sega Master System. It kind of really suited the gameplay button configuration you find on the Sega Master System. But it's on the Dreamcast, and if you're a Dreamcast collector, it's always cool to have new games. Like I said, it's a solid game. This one is number 203 of 3000. There's our disc. And I think the disc is slightly different. Yeah, the disc is slightly different from the actual cover art, which is really nice. Nice attention to detail there. Here's our certificate of authentication. And there's the manual. Again, same image on the front cover as on the manual. And I do like it actually. I do prefer it when we get a different image, a different visual on these manuals to the front cover. But still, The quality, the build quality of these boxes is absolutely second to none. These lovely little certificates of authentication, you know, they won't mean much to some people, but just the quality of workmanship that's gone into all of these games here, the prints on the CDs, the amount of time taken to put, the amount of care put into all of these games is fantastic. You know, they're not printed on cheap paper either. This is, I think it looks like 90 GSM gloss that they printed it on. So you're getting good quality, good crafted games to add to your collection. So there we go, 6 brand new Sega Dreamcast games for you to purchase in 2022. As we saw in the unboxing there, all of these games are special editions. They come with those awesome little certificates and the holograms on the back there, which I think are a lovely touch, especially if you're a collector of Dreamcast games. Make sure you drop down into the comments below. Let me know what you think about these games. Are any of these games really kind of piquing your interest, something that you'd want to pick up? Or is this not your kind of thing? Do you expect more from Dreamcast development? Whatever your opinions, love to hear them down below in the comments. Now, if you're new to the Retro Gamer Boy Show, why not consider subscribing? You can do this by clicking on a little icon just below this video. And we put out brand new retro gaming content every single Monday, so that you never miss it. You can also click on a little bell just below this video. Now, if you can't wait until Monday, don't worry, because we've got a huge back catalogue of retro gaming videos, 2 of which you can enjoy over here.